Chapter 1. Turning Insanity into a Book. Quote, "Writing a book is a horrible, exhausting struggle, like a long bout of some painful illness. One would never undertake such a thing if one were not driven on by some demon whom one can neither resist nor understand." Close quote. George Orwell. On my flight from Florida to Germany, my mind was racing. Once I had decided to write down all the bizarre things that had happened over the past few years, I couldn't wait to get started. All these painful memories popped into my head, demanding to be written down. I fly back to Germany at least once a year to visit my parents for Christmas. As always, I was going to stay there for a month again. That entire month, from December 15th, 2013 to January 15th, 2014, I typed my little heart out. Every free minute I was on my laptop, typing up a storm, and every minute I wasn't on my laptop, I was thinking about getting back to it. I was obsessed. I couldn't think about anything else. I ended up completing the whole book, about 500 pages, during those 30 days. The pages just poured out of me without any test run or plan. It all just came out as one finished piece, like the story was already there and all I had to do was write it down. My heart had been broken over and over by drug-addicted hookers. It's a miracle I made it through all that emotional pain alive. Before I got on the plane, I had sworn to myself that I was done once and for all. That was my New Year's resolution. No mo-ho. No more whores. But like all New Year's resolutions, it didn't last very long. After a few days, I caved. I looked on Backpage to see if Lucy or her Aunt Nicole had posted escort ads. I had been dating both of them. Don't ask, just read the previous book. It was so painful to see their escort ads. They had posted almost naked pictures of themselves, inviting random strangers to come fuck them. I had told myself I wasn't going to contact them anymore. I wasn't going to look them up or answer the phone if they called me. And yet here I was, just a few days later, wallowing in misery, looking at their naked pictures online. It was like picking at the scab on a fresh wound. The wound can't heal if you don't leave it alone. But I kept picking at it. I texted Nicole. Basically, it was a long "I told you so." I had told her months ago that if she didn't stop shooting up heroin, she'd end up just like her niece Lucy, a hooker who sucks dick and spreads her legs all day, every day, to be able to afford her very expensive drug addiction. Nicole didn't reply. I figured she was too busy fucking random guys. It was eating me up alive. This was exactly why I shouldn't be contacting either one of them. Then I looked up Lucy. Neither she nor Nicole had updated their Facebook pages in a few days. Over the last few years, I had learned that means they were really badly on drugs. Drug-addicted girls are not that different from sober girls when they're only doing a little bit of drugs. They like to pose for selfies or post pictures of their latest meal. But as they sink deeper and deeper into their addiction, posting selfies becomes less and less interesting. They have more important things to do. As their addiction gets worse, their Facebook posts become fewer and fewer. Then I looked up the inmate log at Lee County Jail. It wasn't unusual for me to do that. It was a habit. Drug addicts are in and out of jail all the time. It's their second home. When you date a drug-addicted hooker, is there any other kind, and you don't know where she is because she disappeared off the face of the earth, looking for her in jail is usually the first step. I had looked at the Lee County Jail website almost on a daily basis for the past few years, often not even because I was looking for someone, but simply to see if I saw a familiar face on the daily arrest log. I wasn't the only one who did that. All the addicts in the heroin scene in Fort Myers check the LCJ website daily to see who got arrested and who just got out. They all knew each other. For them, it was almost like reading the daily headlines or checking Facebook to see what all your friends are up to today. So, just out of habit, I checked the LCJ website the day after Christmas. And there they were. Nicole and Lucy had both been arrested on Christmas morning during one of the Lee County Sheriff's frequent prostitution stings. Damn, that gotta suck. Not only did Lucy and Nicole have to fuck random lowlives on Christmas morning, no, as an added bonus, they went to jail. Worst Christmas ever. Well, for most people. For addicts, that's business as usual. An addict's average day is worse than a sober person's worst day. This probably wasn't even their worst Christmas. At least in jail they were safe, had a bed, clean clothes, and a warm meal. I messaged Ivy on Facebook. She was one of Lucy's friends, another drug-addicted girl who spent a lot of time in and out of jail. I asked her to tell Lucy to call me. They all talked to each other, so I knew Ivy would be able to give Lucy my message somehow. Maybe when Lucy called her drug dealer from LCJ to ask him to put some money in her jail account so she could buy candy. If her friend Ivy bought drugs from the same dealer, she'd give my message to the dealer, and then he'd relay it to Lucy when she calls him from jail. It worked. A day or two later, Lucy called me from LCJ. She was crying. It felt good to hear her voice. I had missed her so much. She told me that she and her Aunt Nicole had both been arrested on the same date. One of the guys who answered their escort ad on Backpage was an undercover cop. They set up a date for a threesome, or a double as hookers call it. When they let him into their cheap motel room, he arrested them after they had negotiated a price with him. They must have been careless, because usually hookers know all these little tricks that are supposed to make it harder for cops to arrest them, like never saying sexual terms out loud. They use slang terms because they think a judge won't convict them if they ask for 200 roses for Greek instead of $200 for anal sex. And they usually tell guys to leave money on the night table next to the bed, instead of handing the cash directly to the girl, as if that made a difference. And they prefer to have the men come to their hotel rooms. They don't like going to a guy's hotel because that makes it easier for the cops to set up a sting. The undercover cop waits for the hooker to arrive while his backup is waiting in the room next door. Lucy told me how sorry she was for everything, and that she wished she hadn't left me the way she did on the last day we saw each other. She said she wished she had listened to me. She asked me if I still loved her and if I could forgive her. "I want to come home to you when I get out. Please don't leave me. I love you," she cried. My New Year's resolution was completely out the window. All it took was a few minutes on the phone with her, hearing the pain and sadness in her sweet little voice, and she sucked me right back into her world. We talked for a while, and I told her I was in Germany for a month, but that once I got back to Florida, I would pick her up from jail when she got out. And then she could come stay with me, and we'd see how things go. Of course, she promised she'd never do drugs again. I had heard that one 1,000,000 times before by now. Whenever a drug-addicted girl sobers up in jail, she has all the best intentions to change her life. But all of those good intentions are usually out the window as soon as they get released from jail. Often, they get picked up by their drug buddies or dealers, and they get high before they even leave the jail parking lot. Jail doesn't really look like those tiny little two-person cells with a bunk bed that you see on TV. Well, okay, some parts of jail look like that, but most inmates spend their days in a big open dorm with some tables in the middle where they can mingle and play cards. There are payphones along one of the walls of the dorm, and the inmates stand in line, waiting for their turn to use one of the phones. When Nicole overheard that Lucy was talking to me, she kept shouting to Lucy that she should tell me that Nicole wanted to talk to me too. She asked Lucy for my number because she didn't have it memorized. Lucy promised Nicole that she would give her my number when she got off the phone with me. Then Lucy whispered to me, "I don't really want to give her your number. Can you please not talk to my aunt anymore? If we're going to be together, I don't want you to see her anymore." I didn't know what to say. Of course, her request was perfectly reasonable. But on the other hand, Nicole and I had been seeing each other for these past few months, while I was supposedly in a relationship with Lucy. But Lucy was cheating on me the whole time. I ended up sleeping with Nicole while Lucy was sleeping around on me with all these other guys. Nicole and I had gotten very close, and we ended up in a relationship together during one of the many times when Lucy just disappeared, and I had no idea where she was or who she was with. I know all that must sound really strange to you if you didn't read the previous book, but hey, at least I'm trying to give you a little recap. I told Lucy I didn't want to hurt Nicole's feelings. Lucy said she understood and that she didn't want to hurt her aunt either. Okay, I guess you should talk to her, otherwise she's going to get really upset and that's going to be awkward because we're both in the same dorm. I don't want to get in a big fight with her, so yeah, you can talk to her, but don't promise her that she can live with you when she gets out. I'm going to live with you. We're together. But don't tell Nicole we're together when you talk to her because she's going to be really upset. It made me feel good to hear how confident Lucy sounded about wanting to be with me. Maybe this time things would work out. Yeah, right. After we hung up, it didn't take long before it was Nicole's turn to use the phone. She called me crying. She told me she loved me and that she was sorry about the way she ran out on me on the last day we saw each other and that she wished she had listened to me. She told me she wanted to be with me and she didn't want me to talk to Lucy anymore. Yeah, but if I stop talking to Lucy altogether, she's going to be really upset, I replied. I didn't know what else to say. Lucy had asked me not to tell Nicole that we were together because she didn't want Nicole to be angry. There was a reason why Nicole was known as Barbarian Barbie in jail. She could kick most other women's ass. She was definitely more muscular than Lucy. If they got into a fist fight, Lucy wouldn't stand a chance. Nicole told me that being in jail without a penny was horrible. She asked me if I could send her some money so she could buy some candy and toiletries. After we hung up, I put some money on her jail account. The next day, Lucy called me back. Oh, my God, I can't believe you put money on Nicole's books. You said you're with me. How can you send her money but not me? Can you please send me money too? I'm your girlfriend, and don't send her any more money. Promise me. She started to cry again. So I promised and put some money on her jail account after we hung up. Later, Nicole called me. What the fuck? I thought you were with me. Why did you put money on Lucy's books? How is it going to look if my boyfriend puts money on another girl's books? This was getting way too fucking complicated. I told her that I felt bad for Lucy and that I still cared about her. Yeah, I understand. I love her with all my heart. She's my niece, but sometimes I feel like she's my daughter, Nicole replied. But don't send her any more money. When Lucy called me back later, I told her that Nicole had asked me not to send Lucy any more money. That fucking bitch, Lucy said angrily. She's so selfish. Don't send my aunt any more money. Look, this is ridiculous, I said. If you really want to be my girlfriend, and you really want to have a life together when you get out, then we'll have to tell Nicole. I don't want to be stuck in the middle of this bullshit. If we're together, I need to make a clean break with Nicole, and the sooner we tell her, the better. No, she'll be really upset, Lucy replied. If we tell her now, she's going to go nuts and beat me up. Let's tell her after I get out and live with you. Until then, let's not tell Nicole anything. I guess you can keep sending her money, but don't send her as much as you send me. Send her less, okay? It's not like I wanted to send either one of them any money, and all these collect calls from jail were adding up to a lot of money, too. When Nicole called me back, she told me that Lucy was acting funny. What is going on with her? She won't talk to me. She's avoiding me. What did you guys talk about? I told her that you didn't want me to send her any more money, I replied. Oh, my God, why would you say that? Nicole yelled. Because that's what you told me, I said. Yeah, but I didn't want you to tell her that it was my idea not to send her any more money. Look, I'm not good at lying and playing these games, I said. I sent her a few bucks because I felt bad for her because she doesn't have any money. What? Of course she has money, Nicole replied angrily. She's talking to a bunch of guys on the phone. She's not just calling you. Did she tell you she's only calling you? She's such a liar. She's calling Cho and Wigger and Las Vegas and Blizzard. What? Are you sure? I asked incredulously. Yeah, she's standing in the phone line all fucking day. She's on the phone all the time, Nicole said. When Lucy called me later, I told her what Nicole said. "No, baby, I only call you, I swear," Lucy said in her most convincing tone of voice. "You know I call you several times a day, but I don't want Nicole to know that. But she can see me on the phone all the time, so after I hang up and she asks me who I talk to, I don't tell her the truth. I don't tell her I'm talking to you. I just tell her that I talk to Blizzard." "Who the fuck is Blizzard?" "He's the dope boy I went to see at the Night's Inn. Remember when you dropped Nicole and me off before you flew to Germany? It was his motel room. He's my friend, so that's why Nicole believes me when I tell her I call him all the time." "Great. So, who the fuck was she lying to? Was she telling me the truth and lying to Nicole? Or the other way around? This shit was right out of Red Sparrow. Lucy could have been a Russian super spy. "You swear you're not calling anyone else besides me? The last time you were in jail, you kept talking to that Cho guy, and you swore you weren't. You kept lying to me until I put Cho and you and me on a three-way call," I reminded her. "No, that was totally different then. I'm your girlfriend now," she tried to reassure me. "That's what you said last time," I replied sarcastically. "Fine. Believe Nicole over me," Lucy yelled, and hung up. Nicole also called me more than once a day, but not as often as Lucy. When Nicole called me back, I told her how angry Lucy got when I asked her whether she was talking to anyone else besides me. "That sneaky bitch," Nicole said. "She's on the phone all fucking day. That's all she does all day long. She told Blizzard that she loves him, so he'll send her money, and she told Cho the same thing." If that was true, it would explain why Lucy didn't want to tell Nicole or anyone else in jail that she was supposedly my girlfriend. She didn't want Blizzard or Cho to find out about me through the grapevine, any more than she wanted me to find out that she was talking to them. What the hell happened to No Mo Ho? I had told myself I wasn't going to get sucked back into this shit, and yet here I was up to my neck in drama. I think a tiny little part of me missed it. I would never admit to anyone that I like drama, and I really don't. But why the hell else would I put myself through this shit again? Why didn't I just not answer the phone when Nicole or Lucy called me? Why the hell was I spending all this money on collect calls and putting money on their jail accounts if the only thing I got out of it was drama? I didn't even get to have sex with either one of them while they were in jail. I didn't understand it then, but I get it now. In retrospect, it's pretty obvious why I was doing it. I wasn't giving them money to have sex with them. I was giving them money because I was painfully lonely. And I didn't know how to fix that because I was just as broken as they were. I wanted to feel needed. I wanted someone to call me all the time. I wanted to be important to someone. I wanted someone to act jealous about me. I wanted to feel loved. I was craving so badly to feel loved, I was willing to do anything, believe anything, forgive anything, and accept anything, just for that glimmer of hope that I'm going to be loved. During all these phone calls from jail, I had mentioned to both of them that I was writing a book about all the crazy shit that had happened. Nicole thought that was awesome. She loved the idea of being a character in a book, and she said she couldn't wait to read it. But Lucy was weary. "What are you going to write? Are you going to write bad things about me?" "Well, I'm going to write down exactly what happened. And some of the things you did have hurt me really badly. I'm going to write about that too," I said.